Welcome to Syntax. Today we have Johnny Berger on. He is the author of Remotion, and we had Johnny on, probably 3 or 4 years ago to talk about Remotion, which is programmatically creating videos with code. And so stoked to see. I'm stoked to have him on again because Johnny's been grinding on Remotion for many, many years. And in, probably about January or so, this thing absolutely blew up because there was a release of a Claude skill that allowed you to basically just, instead of writing the JavaScript and React code behind it, you could now simply just prompt your way through it. And it made it a lot easier. And it was probably one of the most impressive things, both to us developers, and it absolutely exploded the brains of people who were not developers, seeing that you could just type into a box and a video would come out the other end, which is really, really cool. So we're excited to talk to him about that, as well as a new Chrome spec, which is HTML in Canvas, which as soon as I saw this drop, I was like, this is going to be killer for doing basically making videos with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So welcome, Johnny. Thanks a lot for coming on.
Hello. Thanks a lot for having me on for the second time. That feels special.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. It's only a couple people have been on more than once, so we're stoked to have you on. So you want to give us a quick rundown for the 6 people who've not heard of Remotion, what it is and how it works?
Sure. Remotion is a way to create videos programmatically. So you use React to essentially code a website, but then you kind of also have this dimension of time, and you change the website over time, and through that you can render a video. And I've been doing that since 2021. Found a couple of people who like to use it, and for a couple of years we were all coding the videos manually. And now the latest craze is that the AI writes the code, and now it has become a lot more easier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it seems like, the longevity of the project's really great. It seems like you found a way to monetize it without turning people off. How did you come up with, was it Remotion Pro, and the idea of being able to actually sustain this thing?
Yeah, so essentially the idea has not changed since the very beginning, since 2021. I was in the situation where I already had a couple of open source projects that I maintained, like some indie hacker projects, and I was also working part-time. And I really felt like taking on ownership of another project could stress me out, and I kind of sensed that this one could become more popular. And then I felt like if it becomes successful and all I get out of it is like issues and bug reports and stress, then I would not want that. And so I kind of put a clause in the license which requires like the bigger companies to pay for that, and for everybody else it's free. And it's been going great. We've been able to sustain ourselves from that. We're now a team of 3 people. Yeah. A decision I do not regret, and that I can also recommend to any other maintainer that they think about it before they launch their own.
I think you did a good job of doing this without pissing people off. It feels like so many monetization strategies really either don't work or make people angry, and I think you found a nice balance of something that works. And I never hear anybody complaining about the monetization of this library.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I genuinely wanted to keep like the open source spirit, but find a way to make it sustainable. And I figured like drawing this boundary at like 4 people, if you are an organization with 4 people, from then on you have to pay. I figured that makes sense because then you're probably in the situation where you're able to afford a small fee for that. Especially this year, it's been exploding, and we can hire more people. We have like a public GitHub repo. Yes, like incredible. I've not heard of any other project been able to do that.
Yeah.
Let's talk a bit more about the Claude skills or the AI skills in order to make that. So if you're looking at like a NPM trends, it went from like 125,000 installs a day in like November, December, up to almost 800,000 installs a day, right? Like it's grown absolutely like crazy. And I'm assuming most of that was due to like the skills release. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I would say so. So I guess this pivotal moment was when we just like made a tweet where we said that now you can like steer Remotion through agent skills. So there's like this npx skills command line, which is kind of like a package manager for skills, and that one blew up. Yeah.
And what kind of people are you seeing using this product now? Like the people that are actually implementing it in their business, right? Like I think everybody has like a little demo video here and there, but I'm curious to see like what types of people or what types of videos are people programmatically building versus like going in like an actual editor, right? Like, cause like I'm thinking about this podcast and whatnot. I probably don't want to edit this podcast in Remotion, but there's pieces of it, like maybe the overlays and whatnot, that would be a good use case for us.
Yeah, I think the audience has changed towards more non-technical people. They are now willing to give it a try, and just giving Claude a very broad, non-specific prompt about the video that they would like to have. I think because there are just like because it's so accessible, many people are now just doing that and doing videos like small like product launch videos or like explainer videos or like graphics for their YouTube videos. There have also been like real companies, big companies, building up like design systems, like reusable graphics, kind of like a motion design system.
Yeah.
With that, like a couple of days ago, I saw that like OpenAI was tweeting from the main account, like an announcement video for Codex. That was maybe like the biggest wow moment for me.
So that was built in Remotion?
Yeah. The guy was even open about this.
And do you see a large differentiator between the people who are using this to build like apps versus people who are using this to build one-off video animations and things? Because I actually used Remotion to build like a audio wavelength, like a like a visualizer for just audio content on YouTube. So you get like the bars and the text and stuff on there. And I found it to be awesome for that specific use case. You could, design this thing, you could build yourself a tool and have it export video. But do you see most people using it as a one-off, make me a video kind of deal?
Nowadays, yes. So to be honest, we've kind of like never really found our niche, and we've like bounced around a bit. At first we thought like templates, data-driven videos, that's it. Then we kind of try to position ourselves as like the framework with which you can make a video editor. So not only can you code a video, but you can code a video editor.
You have you have a whole like video editor UI that you built, right? And you can just buy that, and someone could, if you want to go make like your own like what's TikTok's editor called?
CapCut.
Yeah, if you want to make your own CapCut, you could just take this UI and then take a lot of your underlying tech. You could build a video editor, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, we figured building this is kind of like insane, and it requires solving 1,000 problems.
Yeah.
And I would say a couple of them be like componentized and put them into like singular functions. And yeah, that was, and still is like a big idea of Remotion. I guess we're mostly into video technology at all, like video technology overall. And this is also like what is most fun to me. One prompt to video thing. I've not yet found myself to be like super comfortable in this segment, but it's obviously huge.
That's when Claude has these amazing launch videos. Every time they have like a product, they have these Unreal animation videos that like zoom in and out. And I asked on Twitter, I was like, who's building these? And like half of the comments were like, oh, you just prompted with Remotion, bro. and like not to knock Remotion, but like it was very good. It still needs like a human. Like you said, like Remotion is a lot of like video tech, and it has a lot of like built-in animations and examples and things like that, which is why it makes good stuff. But I think you still obviously need that human at the other end. And finally, I got a hold of the person at Anthropic that made it, and they didn't want me to like share anything, but they did tell me like their process was like partially browser, right? A lot forgetting a lot of like the assets, but then a lot of that was like exported from the browser into like After Effects assets, which I thought was kind of an interesting workflow. But I'm like, do you think we will get to a spot, or maybe another question is like what is a good? Have you seen any good workflows for people maybe partially prompting, partially editing, or like what does that even look like to build like a really good video?
I think there's still a big gap to like a super nice, fast, iterative workflow. I mean, I'm using After Effects myself. I'm fascinated by the program, and I'm trying to learn from it. And like, gonna be honest, I want to copy some of its ideas now. Like, for example, they have like this
I love to
effect
hear that,
system.
actually. Yeah.
They have this effects system where you have like blur, wiggle, vignette. Just like grab them from a panel and drag them on top of a layer. And then you have these controls which you can adjust, and you get instant feedback. And this does not make sense to do agentically because you have to wait. I think this could be the next step, and I'm actively working on this.
Cool.
Kind of like trying to figure out how this can make sense, because I do think one other important aspect is that the code should like remain the source of truth. So if you like visually edit the values in a UI, how does this save back to the code? What I've kind of figured out so far is that, like with some black magic with JavaScript proxies and source maps, we can kind of like figure out where a React component is located in the original code, and then we can use some abstract syntax tree processing to like write the props back. But then if you like write values back to the code, then that triggers like a fast refresh, and there's like this 200 milliseconds latency. And what if happens at the same time, it's not a nice experience. So now I'm like trying to bypass the bundler if you write back to the code, but then if the agent
that's pain from
write
there
at the same
out.
time. I'm thinking about this, and once I figured it out, we can also bring this aspect to Remotion.
That's cool. Because I agree, because I was working on some Remotion the other day, and my process was sometimes I was jumping into the code, sometimes I was prompting to have changes, and sometimes I was in like Remotion Studio selecting from the dropdown. And then I ended up making my own like crappy version of Remotion Studio that sort of embedded the Remotion player, and then I had all my like props as drop downs, like background and font and color, all of those things. You can click, and as you hover over it, it shows you in real time. And then when you click it, it updates the code. And I was like, this is kind of a nightmare, because there's now 3 spots where you want to interface with it, right? Editing the code directly via prompting an agent, or actually via the UI, and it all sort of comes back to the code where the Remotion like timeline lives. So that's really cool, because I'm really excited to hear about that. Our editor Randy, who is like absolute vibe coder Chad now, that he's got a cursor subscription, and he builds all kinds of stuff.
So funny.
He's so good at it, and he's building all these Python scripts that like automate a lot of the editing and like import it into DaVinci and transcribe it. And he's building this whole app. And then like one thing we're starting to think about now is like we would love to have like motion graphics and overlays and things like that programmatically done. And in the past, I've done it for my videos with just like static PNGs. And I built a whole web app that just exported it as like a transparent PNG, because I was like, this is way easier to lay out in HTML and CSS, and with a little bit of JavaScript if you need it. It's way easier to do that than to use like Photoshop or Figma or something else. And that's why I love this, like the idea of doing it in video so much. But one thing that came out a couple weeks ago was this Chrome is prototyping HTML in Canvas, meaning that you can now write parts or all of the DOM into a canvas element, meaning that like you can still interact with it like it's like HTML. So your inputs still work, your drop downs still work, you can still highlight text, but because it's in a canvas element, then you can apply shaders or any effects that you're used to in Canvas, which is, you want to talk a little bit about that? I think that's probably really exciting for you.
It's very exciting. Maybe I need to contain the hype at the beginning. This is like an experimental technology, and for it to work, you have to like download Chrome Canary and enable a flag in the settings. So you cannot like ship this preview as a website to a user. But if you are willing to put up with it, then you can use this to create some really cool videos. And if we think about it, like any video editor or any motion graphics editor, what they do is they essentially have like a canvas, a rasterized bitmap, and all of these effects are just being drawn onto the bitmap. And then if you have effects, transitions, they just manipulate the pixels in many different creative ways. And that's not been possible on the web so far. We do have a canvas element, but it is like separate from the DOM world. So in the DOM world, you can lay out items in a grid, in a row, like with CSS, with one line of CSS, apply all sorts of things. But you cannot apply like a progressive blur or a vignette effect on top of that content. And this API makes that possible. And so it feels like day one again, because that number one constraint that we had is now gone. And so, we are rethinking a lot of things.
It's so cool.
So exciting. Do you foresee this being like paradigm shifting in your world because of the amount of things you can just apply with Canvas now? Canvas unlocks so much, right?
Yeah, definitely. There are like a couple. I'm trying to like figure out the exact mechanics of how does this HTML and Canvas like actually works, and what are the limitations of it. Like, for example, one limitation that I have found is that you cannot like nest it. In my prototyping, I would have found it like very useful if we could like maybe like add a shine effect to like one small element, but then add like a blur or a vignette effect to like the entire video.
Oh yeah.
And how HTML and Canvas works is in the DOM, you add child nodes to the canvas, something that you would not do before.
It's really weird. Like you open a canvas tag and then put your HTML inside of there.
Yeah, it feels illegal.
Yeah, it does.
But that's how it works. And then you end up with like this tree. And I was like trying to figure out in the inner canvas tag, if we like apply the shader there, will it also, does the outer shader then compose with that? And that does not seem to be the case, unfortunately. So I'm thinking about like whether there's like a workaround or whether I should like open an issue in the spec and ask about this. But for now it's just like we'll throw an error.
And if you want to see all of the errors in your application, you'll want to check out Sentry at sentry.io/syntax. You don't want a production application out there that, well, you have no visibility into in case something is blowing up and you might not even know it. So head on over to sentry.io/syntax. Again, we've been using this tool for a long time and it totally rules. All right. Do you think there's any concern about this API just not making it?
Yeah, it could happen. I mean, if we need to be realistic and they could just like scrap it, I think there's like this whole process of like stage 0, stage 1, stage 2 that like any web technology has to go through, and it's not even at stage 0 yet. And also like the API could change entirely. I'm just not willing to let it dampen my mood right now, because we can pin the version if we wanted to, and I'm willing to adapt to whatever.
It feels like one of the first APIs that's been universally like, this is amazing. Like I've seen just a tremendous amount of people being excited about this. So you would hope that would influence things.
I agree. And a lot of the people that are working on Chrome have said like, yeah, send us your feedback. And like now's the time it's amazing that so many people are playing with it because they're going to have such good feedback. Like the one, you can't nest them, or like another one is you can't put an iframe inside of it, which maybe makes sense. Probably makes sense. There's probably a lot of security issues there. But it is such a cool thing. I made one where like, I just love like grunge and blur on a lot of my text. And I built some like 3D shaders that would very efficiently add like blur and grunge and grit and grain to your text, which is just, it looks so cool. And I can think of so many use cases for that in my videos. And maybe we should say for people who haven't used it before, it doesn't necessarily have to be in the browsers because it's not like people are watching Remotion videos in the browser. You can, but most people are exporting them. And then the way that it works is that you can, maybe you can tell me, but it takes screenshots of, or not screenshot, or screen captures of every single frame and then stitches those together. Is that how it works?
Yeah, pretty much. It sounds very simple, and it is on the surface that we just like essentially launch Puppeteer, seek to the right frame and capture it and encode it with FFmpeg. Yeah, I don't want to make it sound more complicated than it is. To like get this HTML and canvas thing working was like very difficult though, actually, because we like wanted to compile a version of Chrome which was recent enough to have this thing, but also was like small enough so that it can fit in an AWS Lambda function, and also that it has like the H.264 and H.265 codecs enabled, which by default like the headless Chrome does not have, and this is also very important for us to play videos. And so for like all of the operating systems, we like compiled Chrome like for 5 different platforms, and that's like a huge project.
How long does it take to compile Chrome?
I would say like 4 to 5 hours. You would like spin up like an EC2 instance with 150 gigabytes of RAM and like
really?
100 cores. Yeah, it's massive. And I used to do this by hand, and it would like take me a week because it would also fail. And now with the agents, I can do like multiple compiles a day and parallelize them. It's really, really nice.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's one thing I wanted to ask about as well, is like, because of the way that works is that it takes like a screenshot of every frame. Your UI essentially needs to be like a pure function, meaning that you pass in a time code and it will always render that exact same frame at that exact same time. And because of that, when you want to use animations and whatnot, does that all need to be like the Remotion way of doing animations, or can I just use regular CSS animations as well?
You can animate the CSS properties in JavaScript, but you cannot have like the CSS native animations. These do not work, and they lead to flickering. Our model is essentially that using a hook called useCurrentFrame, you get the current time, and then it's like up to you to like render the right image. It's like a pure function. The time is the argument, and your job is to return an image. And because like the CSS animation is not like tied to the time, well actually you can make it, but it's a bit hacky. That does not work by default. But it unlocks some really nice things. Like you can have like a huge timeline and only need to mount and render the content that you really actually need at the moment. So if you have 100 clips, then you don't have a bottleneck, and you can multi-thread the render because like every frame is so deterministic. You can parallelize it as much as you want.
Yeah, like you could theoretically spin up, like let's say you had like 100,000 frames. Could you theoretically spin up 100,000 lambdas and render it all in like 1 second?
Yeah, let me think about it. So,
You should.
100, so 100,000 frames. Let's divide it by 30. That's like 3,000 something seconds. That's
Yeah.
like an hour long video. And with like Remotion Lambda, you can, I mean, this is like a hard coded limit by us because we think too much concurrency also doesn't make sense, but you can like spin up to 200 Lambda functions and actually split up this hour of video into 200 parts and render it pretty quickly. The longer the video, like the more X real time it is, because the parallelism outweighs the overhead.
Yeah.
So absolutely possible, and our users actually want to do that. And the problems are more with like the 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours long videos, because then you run out of Lambda resources.
Oh yeah. And when you spin up a Lambda, does it, like I'm assuming there's some overhead of like spinning it up, and then you're able to take multiple screenshots in that one once it's warm? Is that even a thing anymore? Do we still say warm Lambda?
Yeah, it does make a difference. I would say you save 1 to 3 seconds if a Lambda is warm. If that is the case, then we can also already open the browser. Yeah, then you can perfectly parallelize it. In the end, you kind of need to stitch together the already encoded parts of a video and the encoded audio together, make it seamless so that there are no audio artifacts. Also like a delicate topic that we've spent a lot of time on. But yeah, we have like some metrics from our users. I think like millions of videos are rendered every month on these Lambda functions.
And one thing I'm really curious about is, do you have any insight into like the seedy underworld of video slop? I like, you know, like these like programmatically made videos that YouTube is trying to crack there. I think YouTube is calling it loop content, which is just videos that can be programmatically made over and over again. Do you have any insight into that underworld? Have you talked to anybody about that?
Yeah. Interesting. I don't have like super secret info.
Okay.
But you know, like some people have been like, whenever a video is being made with Remotion, we like using FFmpeg, like embed like metadata. Like
I FF probed a video the other day and it says made by Remotion.
And some users complain that, you know, they want to be able to remove this because apparently platforms use this to detect their slop.
Yeah.
I made a slop video the other day, and I removed it. I think I removed it, or no, I didn't. And TikTok just tanked it immediately. And then Instagram did well, but I think that I'm not sure if they detected the Remotion tag or they detected that it was like an AI music kind of meme reading GitHub comments. It was really funny, by the way. You should watch it. But I was curious what they used to detect that.
I mean, if that is really true, then I apologize to the world, really, for all of this slop. I was never part of the plan. Started this when AI was not a thing, and I'm trying to not amplify it or compliment our users on it who are doing this.
Oh no, that's not your fault, right? Like you build an awesome tool and people use it, figure out how to use it for bad as well. But I think the platforms are doing a pretty good job at trying to figure out how to detect this type of stuff.
I'm curious about Media Bunny. So you all moved over to Media Bunny in, it seems like February of this year. That's a project that I've always had on my radar, but I'm not quite sure where it fits in the ecosystem. Can you talk a little bit about why you moved to Media Bunny and like where it fits in here?
Yes, I'd love to. So traditionally in the browser, if we are dealing with video, then we are just like interfacing with the video tag, or we want to extract a frame from a video, we mount a video tag, we seek to the correct time and then like capture a screenshot. But this is not frame accurate. There's a limit. You cannot like mount too many video tags. At some point, like the browser will just start throttling you, and it's not efficient at all. And there's another really interesting technology that is a bit more mature than HTML and Canvas that is now available in all browsers in 2026, called web codecs. And that allows you to interface with video on a very low level. So this allows you to take encoded H.264 chunks, H.265 chunks, allows you to decompress them and also to encode them again. These H.264 chunks, they are like embedded. This is what you will find in an MP4 video. And to read them out, you like actually need to read the binary data of an MP4 and extract and interpret these encoded packets. And that is, as it turns out, a really difficult task because MP4s have so many different features. There are many edge cases, and that is just like one container. There's also WebM and like 6 other containers if you include the audio containers. I saw this opportunity that we can work around limitations of the video tag by just fetching the MP4 via the web fetch API, reading the binary data, putting this into web codecs, and then doing things. And then even doing things like converting an MP4 to a WebM and have like a different codec, which was not possible before. It was possible with like software only, but this was also used like the accelerated codecs. And so, sorry, only now I'm getting to Media Bunny. When I saw this, then I immediately realized that the guy behind it was like much smarter at it in every aspect. And now we talk often, and it's like amazing how brilliant he is. He like, for every topic, always knows the right answer. And like I immediately realized that, maybe I should give up on this rabbit hole and, just use this awesome library instead.
Oh man, it takes a special kind of person to want to have to like write a codec. Man, I can't imagine the little bug rabbit holes you've gone down in your days of writing codecs of just little. I'm sure you've had like, I've battled my fair share of just frame drops of just using software to record video. And I can't imagine poor people writing the codecs of finding all these bugs.
Yeah, it's its own world. Like last year, I've also been to like a multimedia developer conference, Demuxed, and it's, like every talk is just like funny anecdotes, rants about edge cases and what can go wrong. Really funny.
Oh, that's great. I once saw, years ago, I saw a talk on how MP4s were encoded. And they basically said, like, sometimes you're watching an MP4 and you just get like a blocky green. And this was way before. This was probably 10 years ago at Frontiers conference. And they explained how like the MP4 codec works and what happens when things go wrong. And they had built like an MP4, I don't know, decompiler or something in the browser. And I thought that was so interesting to understand. Oh, that's why when you see green, it's glitching out, and it's because there's something wrong with the underlying data. I want to ask about like motion graphics workflow as well, because like if we were to like build some sort of like a lower third or whatever, like this is one thing we're kind of looking into right now is just the NFL has all these things over top, the scores, when the score changes, it will go up. All of that stuff is just great in the browser, right? I can think of so many easier ways to handle it. Now we have the what's the retext? I did a video on it. Why am I forgetting it?
Oh, the
pretext.
Pretext.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the new pretext APIs for sizing things, and like the browser is just such a good use case for doing layout and being able to do animations and change text and whatever. And I'm curious, have you heard of anybody and what their workflow looks like for programmatically creating these things? I know there's like Lottie files. I know there's this new OGraph HTML spec. Have you looked into that whole area of like, how do we get these motion graphics out of rendered in Remotion and then somehow into the editor, but be able to update them?
Yeah, I guess the Remotion way is that you would like first figure out how to build like this, like a scaffold in web technology using React, CSS, make it look like you want it to. Then you animate it, you add keyframes in Remotion. In the end, we have a way to like parameterize these motion graphics. We simply use React props for that.
Props,
so
yeah.
you have a component, you give it props. And I think you've also like alluded to like these little drop downs that we have in the studio. So we allow you to like interactively edit and preview them, like define, like using a sort schema, kind of like create a form where you can like try different values and see how.
So good. Just makes so much sense in my brain, that way of doing it.
And I would say if you're good with this workflow, then that is the way to go. But reality is, and a lot of users ask us this, is that they have an After Effects template and now they want to parameterize it. This is where you have to use Lottie. Well, it works well. Use the regular Lottie React component. Well, we've kind of made our own integration, but it's like a very thin layer on top of it. And you parameterize the JSON essentially. But that's also one big limitation of the Lottie file, that it is just a JSON, which describes the whole video. You do not have the crazy cascading of CSS. You do not have the crazy if-else data fetching stuff that you can do in React. It's not code. It's just data, which defines a Lottie file. So you are limited in how you can parameterize a Lottie file. And it's very pragmatic. You design something in After Effects, and then you bring it over to Remotion with Lottie.
That's cool. And does Lottie have like, so they wouldn't have the ability to like say measure a name, you know? If my name Wes Boss is short, maybe you want to increase the size of it until the height of it gets to a certain point. Whereas like somebody's German last name is really long, you want to like, you maybe want to shorten it. Lottie doesn't have that logic like that, does it?
I do think it gets pretty hairy if you want to do that, because as far as I know, a Lottie animation has like fixed dimensions. So if you clip outside of it, then you know you have to maybe with code also detect, like measure the text and also decrease the font size, which is also in the JSON.
Yeah,
I think that's how it works, but I'm not Lottie expert. Maybe they do have like an auto-sizing feature. This would be cool.
Yeah, I think like honestly, I'm talking like Randy, our editor, as well, and like essentially, I think what we want to end up with is just like a website we can visit, and we have got all of our components, and you can just type in, and there's all logic in those. You know, if there's 3 people, render it this way, and then you obviously could just click download. It'll render it out, download it. We can throw it into DaVinci. But like I think the dream would be like a DaVinci plugin or something like that, where you can type in the different props and then click like re-render or something, and that would replace that piece somewhere in there.
Yeah. So we do not have a plugin yet, but what you have just described before, you can totally do it. And we actually have a demo if somebody wants to check it out. It's on the remotion.dev/brand, and you will essentially end up on a website where you can click through our logos, like lower thirds that we use in our videos. You can even, like with this sort schema, parameterize like the lower thirds that we have. And then not yet possible to render directly on the website because this is a static website, but you can copy a CLI command, and then you can render out that lower third as a transparent ProRes video and drag it into DaVinci. So yes, we've not yet closed the arc quite yet. You have to jump through one hoop maybe, but I would say it's still pretty good progress.
Cool.
Wow. Yeah. This is neat. Yeah. Well, this has been amazing, Johnny. Now is the part of the show where we're going to be talking about sick picks and shameless plugs. Sick picks, for people who don't know, are things that generally find interesting, exciting, or just stuff that's making your life better. Johnny, do you have a sick pick for us today?
I do have one indeed, and it is right in my hand. It is the EndTech DMX USB Pro. This is a device that's not so cheap, actually, maybe like $100. And what it allows you to do is it's an interface that allows you to plug in like actual disco lights, like this one, into your MacBook, and then interface with these disco lights through the DMX protocol. This is like the protocol that is actually being used for like big concerts, big festival productions. It all runs over the DMX protocol. I figured out with one prompt, I was really surprised that it worked, that through the Web Serial API, we can program these lights in the browser. And then we can wipe code the lights. And it's like honestly so cool. So I bought like a couple of these lights, made some vibe code, made essentially a vibe coded light show, use Remotion and 11 Labs to like make some karaoke videos, some lyric videos. Composed it still with After Effects, and essentially used really used like all of the AI tools.
Yeah.
And essentially created like a vibe coded DJ.
Do you have a fog machine too?
I do, yeah. But this one is just like like a dumb fog machine. You just press a button.
Okay, you need to make that smart. And what about lasers? Have you hooked up AI to high-powered lasers yet?
I also have a laser. Like out of all of the lights, to be honest, this was like the most disappointing one because it's just like produced like one small dot. But yeah, this was kind of like my rabbit hole at the beginning of this year, and then like for my birthday party, I invited a couple of friends, and then like I performed the vibe coded DJ set.
Yes. Wes, we got to do something for our live shows with this.
Oh, yeah. God. DMX, that's great. I was actually upset. I have all these lights in my office, and they're Bluetooth, and I hate it because Bluetooth is the worst. And I was like, oh, I'll just hook them up to DMX. And it turns out my lights don't have a DMX input. So I'm kind of bummed about that. I should have got some that were DMX compatible. Also, DMX, sick rapper.
Indeed.
Rest in peace, DMX. Yes, rest in peace.
Cool. Shameless plugs. What would you like to plug to our audience? Where can we find you online? All that good stuff.
Absolutely nothing. I think I'm good with exposure recently. At the moment, I just want my piece.
Yeah, people stop finding you. I'm sure you get all kinds of yahoos in your inbox now that this thing is gone. It just exploded. All right. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate you coming on, and definitely, audience, check out Remotion. Build it. I'd love to see what you build. Thanks again. Peace.